We can
Shri
start.
Gurubhyo Namaha. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. We welcome you all to this session, November session of Yuva Bharati. So let's ask our Lalit to do the prarthana to start the session. Thank you.
श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः। मातामहमहाशैलं महस्तदपितामहं कारणं जगतां वन्दे कण्ठादुपरिवारणं शारदा शारदाम्भोजवदना वदनाम्बुजे सर्वदा सर्वदास्माकं सन्निधिं क्रियात्। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। शास्त्राब्धिपारदृष्टवानं सङ्गहीनं तपोनिधिं भजे श्रीभारतीतीर्थगुरुं भद्रौघदायकं भजे श्रीभारतीतीर्थकराम्बुजसमुद्भवं विधुचूडार्चनासक्तं विधुशेखरभारतीम्।
Thank you. By seeking the blessings of Adi Shankaracharya, who is the greatest philosopher of all times, whose Advaita philosophy is highly acclaimed and followed all over the world today, and the Adi Shankara Guru Parampara, which is our Shringeri Guru Parampara, and our Jagat Guru's blessings. So, today's session we said is about the foundations of Dharma and goal of human life. I'm going to start with this little hilarious thing that I heard from my cab driver last night. Because in today's world, as we say, the topic of the day is Indians and Hinduism, or all over the universe rather. It's about Indians and Hinduism, isn't it? So the cab driver last night, he said that you Indian drivers hold a universal license. I said, I've heard about the international license. What do you call as a universal license? So he said, international license means we normally say either if we can drive in India, we can drive anywhere else in the world, and conversely, if you drive anywhere else in the world, you cannot drive in India. So that's how stuff. I was just making fun of that statement, and he said, you guys can drive to the moon, and you can drive around the planets also. So which he said was what he said was, you drive around the universe, so it is universal. So that is the central theme of this Dharma, being the universality of its application. So for this Dharma as a principle, as a sort of ecosystem to exist, it has to have universality in its application. It has to be rather. And each of us are stakeholders, whether we are Indians, whether we are from Siberia, whether we are from Georgia, whether we are from United States or from anywhere else in the world. It should be applicable to everybody. So it has to be a just and fair system of disposition with no delineation and discrimination. That is the general principle of this Dharma, for it to operate optimally and to achieve our goals. So, what is the purpose of our life? The purpose of our life is three things: human existence, right of existence, right of knowledge, acquiring knowledge, and right of enjoyment. Enjoyment is always about instead of incurring the happiness and making sure that we don't get into misery. That's all. So the three things are the components of our purpose: human existence, acquiring knowledge, and then enjoyment or happiness being the outcome. So the fabric of Dharma as its principle, as the process, and as the outcome should also be universal in its application. The principle, when the principle is, universal, its process, how we handle it, and what is the outcome should always be equal. So are we talking about human rights of equality, food, work, health, and enjoyment? Yes, it's all inclusive. So all of us are practitioners of this Dharma, and we all come under this big, what we say is uh, bubble. Rather, we are all under this bubble of dharma ecosystem. Let's see the examples. So Lalit, myself, we were in India, then we moved to United States. So if you want to have, if you want to do your studies, go to universities. Lots of people did that from the 1965 Immigration Act. After it was passed, the professionals went to United States to work. People from all across the world went there, and a lot of people wanted to go and study in the universities because they said that it was the advanced system of education that was offered by the universities in United States. So there was a system from the barter system we have evolved all the way to globalization. So in the normal days, in the primitive days, so if one had extra salt in their house and wanted some sugar, we used to exchange. So maybe it is not, there always it is bound by the do's and don'ts and the rules and regulations. It started in a small way between families, then between, places, and then we just evolved that system. We have grown that system, and we also have grown with it and into a global village today. So that's why I said this dharma as an ecosystem to thrive and evolve. We are all are inclusive, and we are in that bubble. So when I go to a university to learn physics, particle physics, or you want to learn, aerodynamics, the same thing what is taught in India is taught in in the stuff in the universities of other places also. So you have the if you have the credentials to join in the masters from the undergrad, if you want to go there for masters, you must be interested in their what they are offering, and you have to be bound by their admission system and their way of doing completing that course that is offered to you. So whether you are an Indian, whether you are English or a Spaniard or from any part of the world, in the universities the courses offered are common to everyone. Whoever wants can join, and everyone needs to have the credential and then abide by the system. So similar to universities, we have hospitals. We have doctors going in to study, doctors going into work, and also in the airline industries, people from different parts of the world would have learned how to fly the aircrafts. So they when they are employed, they can go onto the aircrafts operated in the same way as how it was taught, things, and they have been evaluated. Their experience have been evaluated. Their credentials are evaluated. So he can get on any a pilot can get on any aircraft assigned to him, and then fly the aircraft, and he has to land it. So the principle of the system to handle it is taught. The process to go through is just the same, and the outcome is to get to the destination, isn't it? So in each level, if we take, be it universities, be it hospitals, or be it in products. So as when the English came to India, they wanted bakeries because they are used to eating breads. So the produce is to be available for each of us. When we go to another country, we need our Indian vegetables and Indian groceries. So people connect to the system where everything is available for everybody. The equality of living, because I need the food, I need good health. Everything should be available. It should be common to everyone. So that is the universality of the application of dharma. So what we need to do as a pilot, as a student, as a doctor. So if a doctor goes into the OR or the operation room, the instruments are provided to the doctor. So the doctor should know how to handle it using her own dharma and the morality that is inculcated within that person, he or she. So has to exhibit that he knows how to use that accessories and how to involve the team in order to do the operation and take care of the patient and complete the operation and keep the operation room clean and put it back into the proper place and proper state so that the next doctor can come into the operation room and take care of it. So in each of these examples, we have seen the dharma followed by each of the individuals being the practitioners and each of the scenarios. So it is common, it's a just and fair system, and there is no delineation and there is no discrimination. This is what we want, and this is what we have been following since the time of our barter system. Isn't it, Lalit? So the universality of the application of dharma, can it be any different in any other religion? Every religion, because we are the practitioners, we are the stakeholders, and we have the individual responsibility when we put together collectively in a team. It's collective responsibility. All of us have to behave in the same manner as is expected of us. If we don't, and if we want to sort of, do something different, then as quickly as we enter the system, we have to exit the system also. Law enforcement, isn't it? So for any system to work well, and including this Dharma ecosystem to work well, we as stakeholders are responsible to keep this sacredness going. And this is the only system, I tell you, is the only one which is sacred, and this bubble cannot burst because we are the stakeholders and we want to do it for ourselves. It was in existence in the previous generation, right from the creation, and it is existing in our times, and it is going to exist. So, what is the scriptural reference to it? To this universality of the application of dharma. Let's bring in our friend Lalit, who is very good with this. Lalit, did what I was trying to explain to you make sense? Will it make sense to the youngsters?
Yeah,
And
for
what
sure.
is the reference you can give us from the scriptures? It's not going to be any different, but we all follow the scriptures. That's why we are doing our, what we are expected to do, rather, isn't it? Can you
Right.
please enlighten us now? Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, so that was definitely a good look into how dharma is applied in our day-to-day lives. So I think scripture always, Shastra always starts from the big picture. So
True.
straight off, we see the word dharma being used in several different places in several different meanings. But we are most concerned with dharma in a sense of duty, in a sense of responsibility, in a sense of how we deal with it in a community. So when we define the word dharma, Shastras give us two definitions. There, Vyakarana, I guess, gives us two definitions, both of which kind of tell us how to approach this concept. One of them is Dharyate anena vishwam jagat iti dharmaha is one. The world, the cosmos is upheld by this. That is dharma. The second one is dhriyate janaihi iti dharmaha. That which is upheld by people is dharma. So right away we see that there is a feedback loop here. Dharma is what sustains the world, and dharma is simultaneously sustained by people. So there are several words that translators have used, as Sanskrit words have come into English or into other languages. But I think the best concept to apply here is called homeostasis. So there is a point in a system, right? All of us know as science students that when a reaction happens, right? There is a forward reaction and a backwards reaction. There is a point in a reaction when the forward rate equals the reverse rate. That point is called homeostasis or chemical equilibrium, right? That is the point in which everything is calm, placid, right? There is no rapid change. The the point of dharma in our scriptures, whether it be applied to an individual, a family, a country, or a kingdom, or the globe, or the universe as it is meant to achieve exactly this: a shanti, right? A peace, a kind of calm. That is the environment that everything works best in, where there are no extremes, where there are no drastic changes. And that is what Sharadaji was talking about when she said that, as individuals in a society, there are certain rules that uphold, social equilibrium, that uphold the social peace, and anything that disturbs the social peace is contrary to that. Which is why even in law enforcement, right, they say you have disturbed social peace, or you have disturbed the peace of the community, and therefore, measures need to be taken. The beauty of Sanatana Dharma is all religions across the world have one of two things. All religions across the world have a set of codes that they follow, and slash or a philosophy. Any religion that has codes to follow without a philosophy immediately falls flat. If you are doing something without a reason to do it, that is not a system that can be appreciated by anyone with common sense or anyone with an academic pedigree. On the flip side, right, if you have just philosophy and no action, you become relegated to books and pamphlets. There is no practical use that society has for you. So the beauty of Sanatana Dharma is it melds both of these. There is a practical side as well as a theoretical side to everything. Which is why when we ask why do we need dharma, right? What is the need for this social equilibrium? It is very straightforward. Our rishis have given us four goals in life, anything that we could ever desire, because at the end of the day, quite frankly, we have no use for the world. Everyone is in this world for themselves. It just so happens that when the world is happy, it is more conducive to our happiness. Therefore, we need the world from the most selfish standpoint. Right? If you have the Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, if you have the large mindset to say that, yes, this world is my family, this world is my oyster, and I will work for its happiness, that's good. But speaking from the most selfish, narrow minded standpoint, we want to be happy, and the individual cannot be happy unless he is in a society that is conducive to him being so for an extended period of time, right? So when we look at what the individual needs, our rishis have categorized everything that we could possibly want as falling into one of four buckets. These are definitely words that you have heard before: dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. Dharma, let us table that. That is the topic of discussion. Artha, material prosperity. Kama, fulfillment of desires. And moksha is release. Release from birth, release from samsara, release from the cycle of birth and death, whatever you want to call it. So anything that a human could possibly want falls into one of these. Now, the very interesting thing is artha and kama are the manifestations of our needs, right? Kamas are our desires, arthas are the means to the desires. For example, you desire to eat, the means to eating are grain, right? Money to buy the grain, a proper house to live in, someone to cook, all of this, fuel for the stove, all of these are means by which desires are fulfilled. So you have artha, the means, and kama as in the desires. Now, most quote unquote secular societies stop with these two, right? There is a desire to be satisfied, and there is a means to that desire, and that is all that they look at in the gross standpoint. What Sanatana Dharma nicely does is it imposes dharma on these two. And once you impose dharma on these two, it is not a simple line of I have what I want and I will make sure I get what I want, but rather it becomes, am I fulfilling my desires responsibly? Is first of all, is this a desire I should be having? Then am I fulfilling this responsibly? For example, you wish to eat, right? We can check, is this desire in accordance with dharma? Yes, right? It does not hurt anyone. It is part of what I need to do. Good. Now, how do I acquire my food? Do I steal it? Do I cook it? Do I steal the money and then buy stuff to cook it? Do I, what do I do? So then the means of it is also regulated. And therefore, dharma forms a framework upon which artha and kama can be safely carried out. Dharma, righteousness, duty, the individual's duty, becomes the foundation for which society's needs can be accurately analyzed, and from there accurately carried out or attained as well. You can see that the main cause of any conflict over human history has always been someone who either wants something that they should not have wanted, means a flaw in kama, or has tried to go about achieving their desires in a way that they should not have done so. Basically, a flaw in artha. So once you have dharma, that immediately provides you a structural support that you can then build your society around. And once you get a bit more scriptural, then you can look at the ways that dharma manifests itself. So generally speaking, there are several things that talk about this, but one shloka that comes to mind is ijyadhyayana danani tapassatyam dhritihi kshama alobha iti margoyam dharmaschashtavidha smritaha, is one shloka that talks about the various ways that dharma is expressed. So in this they talk about 8 ways that dharma manifests in society: इज्य अध्ययन दान तपस् सत्य धृति क्षमा अलोभ. Right, so ashtavidha margah dharma. Dharma is eightfold, or dharma takes 8 paths. The first of these is ijya. Ijya literally refers to the yajnas. So this is very clearly religious in nature, but if you think about it, yajnas are the offerings that we make to devatas, and devatas are the divine forces that uphold the universe around us. So we can see that there it is a debt to the universe, somewhat speaking. Aside from that, you also have the other, the yajnas. So the manushya yajna, service to humans, both the yajna, service to service to other beings around us, and all that. Then adhyayana. Adhyayana is study, right? So study is just as emphasized. Without knowledge, without a healthy transaction of knowledge in society, there is no happiness, there is no peace, there is no progress, right? So adhyayana is definitely a part of dharma, as in everyone is required to study that which is required for them, right? So there are ways that this was categorized in the past. Let us not get into those, but to take Sharadaji's examples, if you're a doctor, right, it is your dharma to study that which is conducive to you performing your duty, right? As a doctor, it is your duty to study whatever medical pathways it is that will allow you to serve society. So adhyayana. Then dana. Now, adhyayana has another thing too, wherein you're preserving the wisdom of the past. There is a twofold purpose to that. There is a side of progress as well as a side of preservation of heritage, preservation of knowledge, and all that. Then dana, charity, right? So when you have more than you need and someone else has less than they need, it makes the most sense to bridge that gap. This is such a basic concept that for some reason many people in society seem to miss. But dana is a very clear example of dharma there, as in you wish something, someone else needs something, give it to them without any desire of something being paid back. Then tapas is austerity. So we can ask, how does austerity help society? This works in tempering the individual, an individual with restraint, an individual with control of their senses, an individual that has the ability to, be in agitating circumstances but yet not be agitated, is an individual that we can be sure will not cause an uproar in society and will not disrupt society. So tapas, satyam, honesty. There is no society that can function unless citizens and its members, its constituents can trust each other, right? That is why societies that have restrictive media, societies that have not just restrictive media but false media, or government propagated media, or even media that is biased in what it puts out independent bias, that is why that those societies start to have tensions within them, social tensions build up. Satyam, honesty in thought, word, and deed, is an expression of dharma that safeguards society. Dhritihi is forbearance, courage, right? The ability to stick to something regardless of whatever challenges may come. Kshama, forgiveness, right? Factionism is the antithesis of this. There can be no peaceful society that is ever interested in vengeance, whether it be against people within itself or without. Right? Kshama, forbearance, mercy, the ability to let bygones be bygones, while of course looking after national security or our own interests, is something that is clearly very important. Alobhaha, again, one of the most important things that a society can look after, or an individual, not wanting more than you need, not wanting, not even more than you need, not wanting something that does not belong to you, right? So these are The eight forms of dharma. If you can follow these eight things properly, says this particular Smriti, you have followed dharma. Now we need to ask ourselves, this is not just applicable to a Hindu. This is not just applicable to a man or a woman. This is not just applicable to an Indian. This is applicable universally. Yes. The other beautiful point of this is that this is applicable to the individual, this is applicable to the town, this is applicable to the state, to the country, to the continent, to the UN, right? Whichever gradation of society it is that you take, these work. If you're a person, right? For example, if you take alobha, not wanting something that belongs to someone else, if you are a person, it means don't desire anything that belongs to another person. If you are a town, it means don't desire anything that belongs to another town. If you are a state, it means don't desire anything that belongs to another state. If you are a country, it means don't desire anything that's not, in your national interest. Don't desire anything that doesn't belong to, that belongs to another country. So these concepts of dharma are much larger than just a religious cult or a religious following or a singular, religious stream, which is why the Upanishad emphatically declares dharmo vishwasya jagatah pratishtha. Dharma is the foundation of this entire cosmos. And by knowing this dharma, loke dharmishtam praja upasarpanti. The people themselves seek out someone that knows dharma well, because the people wish welfare upon themselves. The people wish, paths to welfare. The people wish ways for a healthy, happy society. And if there is a wise man that knows how to accurately implement righteousness, duties, and bring about homeostasis in the community, of course he will be sought out. Loke dharmishtham praja upasarpanti dharmena papam apanudati. By dharma, you can get rid of any ills, whether it be in the individual or in society. Tasmat dharmam paramam vadanti. Therefore, the rishis, the scholars of yore, the wise men of the past, as well as the Vedas and Shastras, declare that dharma is the most important thing that an individual can adhere to in order to find shreyas, in order to find spiritual well being, material well being. And I will conclude with something that Vyasa Maharshi himself concludes with. So, after writing Mahabharata, right, what is the premise of Mahabharata? Vyasa Maharshi says in the beginning, यदि हास्ति तदन्यत्र यन्ने हास्ति न तत् क्वचित् धर्मे चार्थे च कामे च मोक्षे च भरतर्षभ. So this is the title statement of Mahabharata. Vyasa, in his, as commencing, boldly declares, when it comes to matters of dharma, artha, kama and moksha, there is nothing that you can find outside Mahabharata that is not already in Mahabharata. If it exists in Mahabharata, you can be dead sure it will exist in the world outside Mahabharata. Right? So we can take Vyasa Maharshi's word for it that dharma, artha, kama, and moksha are all equally represented in Mahabharata, and we see that, right? There are many situations in which dharma is taught. Uh, it being, of course, a tale of kings and kingdoms. There are several places in which artha and kama, wherein a king's duties, political stratagems, financial stratagems, the way that a country should run its economy. These are all, in fact, discussed in Mahabharata. And of course, moksha, we have the crown jewel of Vedanta, Bhagavad Gita, found in Mahabharata. So Mahabharata does indeed talk about dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. Now, wrapping up Mahabharata, this statement is made in the beginning. Now, at the end of Mahabharata, in the 18th Parva, Swargarohana Parva, Vyasa Maharshi wrapping up says, you know, he sees the way that this story has played out. He sees brothers kill each other over a kingdom. He sees women disrobed in court and no one speaks up about it. He sees children killed in battle in the most immoral ways possible, and everyone is okay with that. He sees all of this happen in Mahabharata within his own clan, his own Vamsha, and he comes away with a conclusion. He says, ऊर्ध्वबाहुर् विरौम्येष नहि कश्चित् शृणोति मे धर्मादर्थश्च कामश्च सहि कस्मान्न सेव्यते. He says, Vyasa Maharshi says. Vyasa Maharshi is saying at the end of Mahabharata, after teaching so much dharma and all this, he sees these cousins kill each other, he sees entire kingdoms wiped out, right? And he says, Urdhva Bahur Viromi, I am crying with my hands raised up. Literally, that is what it means. I cry with my hands raised up. Nahi kaschit shrunoti me. No one pays any attention to what I am saying. What is it that Vyasa Maharshi is saying that we have not taken heed of? Dharma darthascha kamascha. Only by proper adherence to dharma can artha and kama be truly, properly, fully attained. Without, if we pursue artha and kama without dharma, we will get what happened to the Kauravas. If we pursue artha and kama with dharma, we will get what happened to the Pandavas. The Kauravas also wished prosperity. The Kauravas wished land, they wished gold, they wished wealth, they wished power, which are all healthy goals to have. The problem was they went about it in an adharmic way, and thus it led to their downfall. On the other hand, the Pandavas, who also, as Kshatriyas, wished the same kingdom, power, and all that, except they wished it in a dharmic way. They wished only their portion of the kingdom, not the entire kingdom. Whereas Duryodhana wished Yudhishthira's part of the kingdom too, not just his own. So, because, the dharma is what led to prosperity, and the lack of dharma led to downfall, Mahabharata has proven that. But Vyasa Maharshi is saying, I have been saying this since the beginning in all my Puranas, in the Mahabharata, in whatever text it is that I have written. Dharma dharthascha kamascha. Artha and kama follow solely from dharma. Sahi kasman na sevyate. Why then does no one follow dharma and instead focus on artha and kama? That is the difference, or that is the change that Vyasa Maharshi, as the torchbearer of Sanatana Dharma, as the emblem of Sanatana Dharma, as the spokesman of Sanatana Dharma, is imploring the world, and in extension us, to make. The duress, the duty that Sanatana Dharma impresses on us is that as humans, as people privileged enough, as beings privileged enough to be in a human body that has cognitive faculties, that has rational faculties, we must employ dharma when we go about pursuing artha and kama. Now, what is this dharma? Oh, so many shastras have come up, so many customs, so many practices. Those are all to be learned in greater detail in other programs. This talk is just to tell us what dharma is. I will wrap up with one last word. We have titled this The Goal of Human Life. And we have spent our time talking about dharma and how dharma is the means to attain artha and kama. This is from the Laukika standpoint, means this is from the transactional standpoint, from the worldly standpoint. As adherents of Sanatana Dharma, as followers of Adi Shankara Bhagavatpada, as bhaktas of the Shringeri Jagat Gurus, we would be remiss if the instant answer to the question, what is the goal of human life, was not moksha. As humans, as Vedantins, as Advaitins, as the followers of Bhagavatpada, the goal of human life is first and foremost moksha, because that is the way, that is the means by which we will not be born again. That is a topic for the next session, however. We'll be discussing that next session in more detail. But for this session, and dharma is no less important because we live in a world. We are part of this world, whether we want it or not. We are part of society. We owe society, and we must pay it back by being dharmic. So if there is a takeaway from this session, it is exactly what Vyasa Maharshi said. Dharma dharthascha kamascha. Our desires must be fulfilled dharmically. Our desires must be dharmic, and they must be fulfilled through dharmic means. And that is the blueprint that Sanatana Dharma has drawn for a peaceful society, for a happy society, regardless of caste, creed, gender, orientation, race, whatnot. You can put however many dividers in community. You can have a community as diverse as you want. As long as the metric for prosperity is dharma, you can be assured that that community will prosper. That is the takeaway for now. Next week, we will look at moksha and the big picture.
Thank you so much, Lalit. It's a pretty deeper insight. We thought, we will have a sort of easy session, but as a spiritual practitioner and followers of, the Shringeri Padati tradition, and as you rightly said, that, we are sort of drifting from the transactional social responsibility to our ultimate goal. So in the next sessions, following sessions, it's all foundations of Dharma and goal of human life until we get there.
Until
So
we get there,
until
yeah.
we get there.
Yeah, and the nice thing is dharma is not contradictory to moksha, right? Moksha is what the soul
Right.
needs to achieve, and dharma is in no ways contradictory to that. You
So
must do your own spiritual practices without being a hindrance to society, and also while performing your duty in society. So the two are
it is a
not
guide. It
really
guides
opposite at
you
all.
there.
Right,
Dharma is the one that guides us. If we keep
right.
following the Dharma, we will definitely get there to our destination. That will take us to the destination. That's for
Yes.
sure. I'm sure all of you would have understood the grandeur of the social responsibility that we are endowed with, for which how we have to endow ourselves to follow that and get the ultimate result of the goal of life. And with this, we will stop with this session. And why is it Sanatana that we have to talk about in the next session? We say it is Sanatana, universal applicability, and everything. So why should it be Sanatana? So why is it so old, as old as the creation? So we will see the grandeur of the Sanatana Dharma from the next session onwards. Thank you so much, Lalit, for your time, and
Thank
hope the our youngsters all like the sessions. We want to engage you, so in order to engage you, please engage us by participating. And if you want to ask any questions, we happily welcome you to our sort of panel. Please write to us and please give your feedback. We'll happily take it. And what you want to hear, of course, we have to give what you want to also sort of hear, right? We have to hear you out. And if you have any questions or clarifications, please don't hesitate to write to us. Thank you so much. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Sadguru Sharanarvinda Bhyam Namaha.